Hello and welcome to Fats on Film. I am your host, Hannah Ogilvie-Young, and this is the podcast where we discuss all things fat representation in film, TV, and wider media. This episode, I am joined by returning guest, fellow content creator, Alice Mary Tate, aka A Spoonful of Alice. Hello, Alice.
Hello. I feel like I said this last time we recorded an episode, but I'm just so impressed by the fact that you did that all in one take. For me to say it would take like 17, and I'm watching you, like the pressure, and you still did it. It's honestly, I'm in awe of you.
The one thing I wanted to point out, though, I wonder if the listeners will have noticed, because last time you were on, we were talking about Matilda.
Yeah.
And I can't think when that episode came out, because what is time, Alice? Like, genuinely?
No idea. Truly
no idea. But when we had that, you were Alice Mary Dunbar, and I was just Hannah Ogilvie, and both of our last names have changed.
Oh my God, look at that. Look at that.
That's cute, right?
That's very cute. Wow. It really has been. It's felt like we've gone through it together.
And
you know, I've been like lapping up your wedding content and like just absolutely loving it. I feel like we've had
I mean, the feeling's mutual, Alice. No, your wedding was beautiful.
You're the reason why I wore my wedding dress. You're the reason why I got the dress of my dreams, and I'm forever grateful.
There are not enough words to describe how like honored I am to even be a small cog of that decision, because your wedding dress, I've told so many people about it. I've shared your video, I've sent it around, just because it genuinely was one of the most fantastic representations of someone's personality in a wedding dress.
Oh, that's so lovely.
No, you absolutely you owned it. You were fantastic. Both you and Ruth looked phenomenal on your wedding day.
Thank you. I mean, look at you though. The garter was just completely inspired. Totally inspired. Your dress was like so classic, beautiful, and the wedding bib. Say no more.
The wedding bib. I still need to film my little video on like the wedding bib and how that came out. But yeah, I really am like, it's so funny because I think, if you compared our dresses, they were like such like different ends of the spectrum. Mine was quite traditional in a sense, which I would never have expected for me. And then yours is like very non-traditional, but like, I know you had the whole argument over your video went viral and you had loads of people arguing whether it was a wedding dress or not. Yeah. And I think one of your best rebuttals to that, Alice, was I wore it on my wedding day, therefore it is a wedding dress.
Yeah. The number of people who were like, that's not a wedding dress. And I was like, what do you mean it's not a wedding dress?
It literally is.
And yeah, I know that actually it was I think Queen Victoria who popularised the white wedding dress. And before that, it was like kind of whatever you wanted, basically. Could be all sorts of different colours. Don't quote me on that, because actually this is a good segue into today's topic, because I essentially don't retain facts. So I'll get like the sense of something, but I don't know specifics, and I do get things wrong, even if I'm really interested in them. I just don't store them in my brain. So obviously, you will have seen that the topic of this episode is Titanic. And I am, the world's biggest Titanic fan, maybe, who knows? Yet I don't retain any information. Like every time I learn something new, it's like I'm learning it for the first time, even if I've heard it before. If I read a fact, if I like read one of my books on Titanic, even if I've read it before, it's like it's all brand new information and I'm excited about it all over again. Yeah.
I feel we had this conversation when we talked about Matilda, because you were saying that about the film.
Yeah, because Titanic, the film, is different. I think some things seem to make their way into my long-term memory, and just lots of things don't, basically. The Titanic, the film, I think because I first watched it when I was 6 years old and just enthralled by it, and then over and over and over and over and over, like I know it back to front and I know all the words and everything. So but like if I try and learn like facts and numbers and specifics and like dates and names and stuff like that, it gets tricky. It gets tricky. So
yeah,
you know.
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's not tease it. Let's get into it. So we are, as you're saying, talk about Titanic. What can we say about Titanic? It is the 1997 disaster film, drama, romantic film. I don't know what this. It can encapsulate like so many different kind of genres. This film, which is probably why it's so successful. It genuinely is a bit of everything.
Yeah.
It was directed, written, and co-edited by James Cameron, or I like to refer to him as Jimmy C. So it stars Leo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane. Fucking love Billy Zane in this film
So much.
Love him so much. No, the eyeliner.
Honestly, there's nothing better.
It's brilliant. It's an inspired choice. Kathy Bates, Francis Fisher, Bernard Hill, Jonathan Hyde, Danny Nucci, David Warner, and Bill Paxton. It had a budget of $200 million. And Alice, could you guess how much money Titanic has made thus far?
God. I am terrible at guessing. I could not even. I can't even fathom it. But most of it's probably from me. It's from my own personal fortune.
Well, I mean, if this is mostly from you, then you are a very wealthy person, because it has made to date $2.264 billion.
Absolute insanity.
It's insane.
How? Because, like, I guess they bring it back to the cinema every now and again.
I was going to say they bring it back to the cinema,
but like, do people go to that much? I don't know.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Obviously, like me and you, that's a different story. But
yeah, okay, fair.
Insane, isn't it?
It's insane. And then it was nominated for 14 Oscars and won 11, which is one of the biggest Oscar successes. I think it has since been overtaken by Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. But it won for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Best Score, Best Original Song, Best Sound Effects, and Best Visual Effects.
They're all correct.
No, you're absolutely right. There's nothing else could have beaten it, ever or since. So yeah, so it I want to talk about it more, but I hope this gives our listeners if you didn't already know, this is one of the biggest films ever made. It is not hyperbolic to say that, because people like to shit a little bit on Titanic, and I don't like it. First of all, I think it's sexist.
I don't understand it. Like when people say that they don't like it, I'm like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Are we not watching the same film? It's the perfect film. It invokes every possible emotion from me.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and it's got Kate Winslet in it. I mean, come on. It was my sexual awakening in this film. 6-year-old me, the first time I watched it, that was when it happened, I think. I was deeply in love with her from such a young age. And I just think she's one of the most beautiful women in the entire world. Like, I'm obsessed and in awe of her. Yeah, I just can't comprehend anybody not liking it. But
I know.
I may be biased.
But also people have no taste, Alice. This is something we have to understand. Not everyone has been born with the same level of sophistication. No, but clearly you and I were born.
You're so right. And I think it's an interesting time to mention. So my birthday is the 15th of April, which is the day that the Titanic sank. And I'm not a very spiritual person. I'm not, whatever. I don't really believe these things. But wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if the reason why I've been so obsessed with it since I was so young, and I've always felt this like deep emotional connection to Titanic, what if that had something to do with it, and I'm some kind of like, I don't know the words for these things even, but I just find that so interesting.
That, I mean, like, what are the chances?
What are they? I mean, probably quite high. I just watched the film. It's really like the film. I think that's probably more likely. The logical side of my brain says that, but I love to,
No. Let's consider. You just don't know. It's an option. It's a possibility. All right, so Alice, you made it very clear. You've seen this film quite a few times. Could
Mhm.
you let me and the listeners know what this film, Titanic, is all about?
Absolutely, I can. So the film is set aboard the RMS Titanic as it sails from Southampton to New York. Its maiden voyage, and basically it sinks en route. I'm keeping this short and sweet because I feel like everybody knows, I feel like, but essentially, the story of the Titanic. But what the film focuses on is the love story between two passengers, one from the first class and one from the third class. And so there's a lot of kind of interesting dynamics there and kind of themes that are explored. And yeah, it follows their love story as it's like their forbidden love story on board the Titanic. And then sadly only one of them survives.
I guess, spoiler alert, if you didn't already know, I guess the other thing to point out as well is that it's got this bookend story as well. So it's like a story within a story where we have Bill Paxton's character, who's called Brock. Anyway, yes, so the other story it's kind of going on that bookends it is that Brock Lovett, who's played by Bill Paxton, he's on the hunt for the heart of the ocean, and he brings on an elderly Rose who then tells the story of Titanic, and she then decides to throw the heart of the ocean into the ocean, and then depending on how you feel, she either just falls into a sleep or dies. Yeah, and that's the end of the film.
That's all it is. But it's a roller coaster, and like I have said, you feel every emotion, and it's just beautiful and wonderful. And, as I think we probably have said this, but all based on, well, it's based. The voyage of the Titanic is obviously based on a true story. Jack and Rose were not real passengers, although there were passengers called Jack and Rose on the Titanic. And also the room that, I think it's the room that Rose was on in Titanic, that room was empty. So it's possible that it's kind of like again, don't quote me on anything I say, don't quote me on it, but I think
this is off the record. Even this is very much on the record. It's off the record.
Something that I've read in one of the many, many, many Titanic museums that I've been to. That information has wormed its way in, but it could be false.
No, I mean, I know that there is like a grave, isn't there, at the Titanic Memorial site in New York. Or a tombstone which either says Jack Dawson or says Jack something or other, and I think people like to pretend it is Leo DiCaprio's character.
I remember finding out, I remember my mum telling me that they weren't real when I was little. I was devastated. I was literally devastated. And I had two dolls when I was about, I don't know, like 7. I was bought 2 dolls, a boy and a girl, and I called them Jack and Rose. Like I was really weird. I was really
No. I don't think you're weird at all. I think a lot of children, play Titanic in the playgrounds, of course, and like when I say play Titanic in the playgrounds, it was basically like the floor is lava, and you all had to try and get up onto something, and that was like the raft or the door, because obviously the floor was the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, this film, we can't be more explicit, like just how monumental this is, not just to like us individually, but to like pop culture, to the zeitgeist, to Hollywood. This was a massive shift. Was it a shift? Maybe. I think like, because it's an epic, right? This is an epic where you mentioned it got a bit of everything. It's got a bit of action. It's got a bit of romance and, a bit of horror in some places. And there's like some thrillerness going on. That kind of a film is very much of a film of like back in the day.
Totally.
But in like golden age of Hollywood. And so at the time, this is a $200 million dollar film being made. That's a big budget film for 1997. Massive budget. And obviously James Cameron, Jimmy C, he had proven himself somewhat. People really liked his films, but this is such a departure to what he was doing as well. So it's like, that's a big risk. But he obviously clearly loves Titanic, right?
Yeah.
He
goes down there all the bloody time, doesn't he?
He fucking loves Titanic. He wanted to do this story.
James Cameron, I mean, we'll talk about him. He's a very flawed individual, but what I do What I am so thankful for, and I think about this a lot, I am so thankful that he made this film, because, at the end of the day, there's been other Titanic films, but never one of this magnitude.
No, absolutely.
He was the one person who was going to do it justice, because he cares and he knows so much, and he's so committed to telling the story of Titanic, and so much that you see is true to life. There are only, there's not that much that has been tweaked really, and he made a huge effort to make it perfect, and I appreciate that so much. So much.
No, you're totally right. I don't think I've ever watched anything else related to Titanic apart from this film, and like dramatization. I mean,
yeah.
And I think because you have Jimmy C behind the camera, and he is such a maverick when it came to how films are made. The special effects, the practical effects. Like he was such a pioneer of CGI, that it meant that when you get to the shots which really require the CGI, or you have a bit of a mix, the scenes where the water is coming into the ship and the cabin doors are being blown off, that scene is so technically fantastic,
and it holds up today. It absolutely
holds up today. 100%.
Amazing.
The split of the ship, which is one of the most scary moments of the film, it's so well done. And I just think because of his eye, and because he was such a pioneer of melding these two arts together, like you say, even today that still looks good.
It does.
Whereas I think a potentially cheaper production isn't able, because of money, because of expertise, isn't able to replicate that ability I think Titanic really has. It is real because it feels real because it is real. And I just think if I was to watch any other dramatization, I would just be like, oh well, yeah, but Titanic did that better. You know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, so I've seen a few different things. Mm-hmm. I've seen, obviously, so like I said, my dad showed me Titanic when I was 6. Obviously, yes. It was rated 12, but I specifically remember him saying to me, I don't think there's anything in this that you shouldn't see. And we watched it in over 3 nights. We watched it a night together. And I remember when during the sex scene, I said to my dad, I was like, why are they all sweaty? And he was like, they've been running. And I was like, okay. I have such a memory of that. But anyway, so we watched that. But after we watched that, he was like, oh, you now need to watch A Night to Remember, which was, I don't know what year it was made, but it's a black and white film, I think.
Yes, it is.
Much more true to life. So it's much more factual, and it's about the sinking of the Titanic rather than a love story. Because I think that he thought it was important that I understood what it actually, the kind of gravity of it, and I had a respect for what really happened rather than just this big kind of dramatization of it. And I think that's really great of my dad to do that. I was very grateful.
Yeah.
I think it was important, because at the end of the day, it was a horrendous thing that happened, and
it's terrifying.
There are still people alive today with relatives who were impacted,
100%.
So that's another reason why I think the story was so monumental when it was told by James Cameron, because it was A, so true to life, but B, well, when that came out, there would have potentially been survivors alive, I think, still. So, it's kind of extra emotive because it's something that happens kind of within our lifetime, and it really shines a light on how disastrous it was.
Yeah, fully so. I think, again, you're absolutely right. It is genuinely such an upsetting film. And I know everyone jokes about crying at the end, but I remember when I don't know how old I was when I first watched it. I think I was 5 when it came out, but I must have been 6 or 7 when I would have watched it. And I remember we got it on VHS, and I remember being sat on the living room floor, and I just had a box of tissues in front of me, and I was just sobbing.
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably not even really realizing why I was so sad, but it's pulling at the heartstrings. And then again, I remember being told that this is something that actually happened, and I found that really really scary. Like,
Yeah.
that could happen. So that started a bit of a thing about, like, well, I don't like want to go on a boat then. That has changed because I really do want to go on a cruise one day. But you know, when they talk about like modern day cruises and they always compare them to Titanic, and they're like, oh, and this is actually like 3 times the size of Titanic. I'm like, why have we not learned anything?
Honestly.
Because that's the biggest ship ever made.
One of my bucket list things that it's on my bucket list, but I'm scared of it, is that there is still a ship that goes the Titanic route from Southampton to New York.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go on it. I want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm desperate to do that route. I think it's like, it takes like a week or something. And, you know, it's similar in that you pay, all your food is like paid for and stuff, and you're like, look after while you're on there. But yeah, you sail from Southampton to New York, and I'm like, I just really want to do it. I would.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something in me that wants to do that, but also I think
you should do
really
it.
scary and really emotional. I think I'd be really emotional doing that.
Yeah,
because I find
it would be. No, 100%. I think, again, like, it is like, it's just the gravity of it. You know, like 1,600. Is it 1,600 people lost their lives?
100 people. Yeah, 700 survivors, 1,500 deaths.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's so brutal. So coming back to the film, how often do you watch this film?
I would say like at least once a year, like in full sitting down, watching the entire thing. Me and Ruth will watch it. Like, we both really love it. Like, Ruth's my wife, for anyone who doesn't know. We actually had we didn't have a Titanic themed wedding, but we had lots of Titanic themes running through our wedding because it's a film that means a lot to both of us. And I had a Titanic themed hen do also. Like, this is really making me seem really mental, but you know.
No, it's not. It's brilliant.
Anyway, yes, this is all just little glimpses into my brain and life. Yeah, so I'd say we watch it probably once a year, like, properly, but then I will just sort of put it on if I need to feel something sometimes. The opening credits, I cry. Like, I cry the entire, it's the music that really gets me. And I also listen to the soundtrack all the time. I used to listen to the soundtrack when I was young, like when I was a child, to go to bed, to go to sleep.
Wow.
And sometimes I would wake up when it got to like the sinking music, because it would all be like stressful.
It's a bit stressful.
Yeah, so I love the soundtrack, listen to that like all the time. It's a big part of my life, I can't lie.
Yeah. No, we're the same. For me, I don't know why, but I watch Titanic at Christmas. Really? I always associate Titanic with Christmas, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's so cold. So yeah, I tend to watch it kind of in the period between Christmas Day and New Year's. I'll be like, yeah, or I might want to watch it like New Year's Eve, for example. That's the kind of thing. And it's funny because my partner, my husband, I have to get used to saying that. He liked it before, you know, he had nothing against it, but since we've been together for 10 years now, it means that like every year we've watched it, and he now totally gets it. He's like, oh no, this is such a good film. I'm like, yes, it is. Love it. Yeah, no, absolutely. He's completely converted. And like, I did DM you earlier in the week because one of the things I absolutely love, it's such a quotable film for me. Like, there are so many lines that like come to my head all the time, but between me and Graham, we quote it at each other all the time. Mainly Cal is a real big influence into our dialogue, which I don't know what that says about us.
What's your
so we'll say, I have a child, she's all I have left in the world.
I'd say that our favourite ones are actually not Cal. So we do Rose, get into the boat.
Rose.
Right. We do that,
and then again, a really niche one we do is Owen Griffin's character, who's the Welsh sailor who's gone to go get the survivors, and we'll go, we've waited too long. No, and the other one we do is we go, Mr. Andrews, at each other. Mr. Andrews.
Yeah. And if you don't shut that hole in your face.
We also, sorry, I will stop. We go, she's made of iron, sir. She surely will.
We'll both have the lamb, rare with very little mint sauce.
Oh my god. These are like niche things. There's no reason you will have any reason to quote these
not
things.
mix. That's another one.
We say that all the time. We say that all the time. That guy we quote too much. He has one line in this film, and it's that.
It's iconic. I remember I said that to my mum once when I was little. Honestly, because obviously I'd watched it when I was young, and then I remember specifically my mum like couldn't do something, and then I was like, "Well, women in machinery do not." And my mum was like, "What the hell?" And she was like, "Alice, you can't say that." And I was like, "Sorry," I just took it as fact.
Women in machinery shouldn't mix. No, it's just so brilliant. It's so much fun. It's such a fun film for like such a dark like true story. So it's like,
I don't know if you saw, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the fact that I had a Titanic themed hen do, because we had, well, the whole thing wasn't Titanic themed, but we had a Titanic themed party in like one of the evenings, and everyone dressed as characters from the film. You know, like someone dressed as the clock, someone dressed as the like the door that they both say. Someone was the drawing, someone was the iceberg. Like we had, you know, it was very very clearly like about the film, and it was very clearly like, you know, we weren't dressed as like dead Titanic survivors and like whatever, but people really took offense to it. Like it was really split. It was split between people being like, obvious what they're doing. Like you can laugh at things that are sad, and you can laugh at things that are, you know, potentially a little bit taboo or whatever. Totally got it. And then you had the other camp who were like, it's the same as having a 9/11 themed hen do, and I was like, it's really not. Like you know,
no, they are.
Those things is like a tragic accident that happened, you know, over 100 years ago. The other one was a like evil terrorist attack that happened really recently, and was not an accident. And there hasn't been a huge kind of blockbuster film that's been the subject of internet memes for years and years and years come out of 9/11. Like it's very different, but people just like, some people don't have the critical thinking skills to be able to understand that. But then the film is funny. Like this is what I was saying as well, like in response to some of those comments. I was like, the film itself is funny. It's really camp. Like you know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah, it still respects the story of the Titanic and what happened, and it pays on, you know, homage to the real passengers and survivors and stuff like that. But it's also funny and epic and all these things that, you know, it can be both. People are very black and white about stuff like that sometimes, I find, on the internet especially.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like nuance, critical thinking, media literacy is at an all-time low. So no, like you're absolutely right. They're completely different things, and actually to conflate the two is very disrespectful.
I think so.
Yeah, like that's disrespectful. Not like dressing up as a door. Like
100%. And I was like, you know, like I can do that. I can like have my friends dress up like that and have loads of fun and laugh and blah blah blah. But I also have the newspaper cuttings from the morning after the Titanic, after the Titanic sinking, on the wall in my bathroom, and I think about it all the time, and I you know, make an effort to learn about the real stories and the real survivors and the real victims and all sorts of things. And I'm like, I'm also very respectful. So I found that I was really offended when people felt that way. And you have to brush it off, don't you? But I was like, that's not it at all for me.
No, I totally hear you. And if my opinion is worth anything, I think you've handled that with absolute grace, because you are the biggest Titanic fan I've ever come across. Like, and not just from a film point of view, but from like the whole shebang. You know, you are obsessed with it in the nicest possible phrase. But you know, you love it. You are very interested in it, and that's the most respectful thing you can do.
I love to learn about it, and the film is actually a really great place to learn about it because, as we said, it's so well done.
Yeah, and also it was you know, we're both, you know, children in the 90s. This was our introduction to Titanic. I had never heard of it before, this film. This
No,
was
me
our
neither.
doorway into understanding this event.
Totally. And keeping those memories alive as well, like
Mm-hmm,
keeping the
mm-hmm.
story alive. But yeah, critical thinking, minimal.
People be crazy. Okay, well, so we've talked about what this film means to us, but I guess we kind of have to explain why we're going to talk. Why are we talking about it on Fats on Film? And I was really like umming and ahhing. I was like I love Titanic. I want to talk about it. Like yeah. And then I remembered, obviously, there are some larger characters we can discuss, and of course, probably the most obvious character is Molly Brown, played by Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates has already been discussed on this podcast because of Misery. What are your feelings on Kathy Bates?
I adore Kathy Bates. I
Love.
think she is perfectly cast in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, if you look at pictures of the real life Molly Brown, like they look so similar. Like so it's
Really?
even like her face is, you know, just perfect casting, and she encapsulates well. I mean, obviously I've never seen a video of the real Molly Brown, but from what I know of her, she encapsulates her beautifully.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't they look similar?
They really do. That's cool.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I just think that in terms of kind of fat representation, Molly Brown is good fat representation. And they could have slimmed her down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that they didn't. Interestingly, I did a little bit of research into her for this podcast, just to kind of, you know, refresh my memory. And I did not know that there was a musical in 1960 called The Unsinkable Molly Brown, which was then turned into a film 4 years later. And
Right.
is it Debbie Reynolds plays her?
Yes.
Like a very slim woman who's like bouncing all over the place or whatever. Because I watched the trailer for it on YouTube, and I was like, wow, they have really changed
Wow.
like in there and eradicated the fat character there. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. And I think she's actually, like, I love her as a character. I think she's iconic and good, positive, for the most part, fat representation.
Yeah. It's interesting because when we're first introduced to Molly Brown, she joins the boat off of Ireland, doesn't she? So she's a little bit later than the rest of the kind of main cat.
In France.
Was it France?
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
She was in Paris.
She was in Paris.
Yeah.
What a socialite. And she kind of joins in, and we're introduced, like, how she's introduced, she comes on and she's carrying her own bags, and she's almost like, she actually says something to the person who's meant to be helping her. Let me see if I can find it. No, I didn't write it down. But, you know, she's almost like, you know, like, I'll just lug my own kind of luggage because you can't lift all this stuff. And you know, she's quite loud and brash. And if you compare her to, say, Rose or her mum, who are very quiet women, you know, they're very quiet, they're very reserved. Women should be seen, not heard, very much that layer or what should I say? Very much that kind of like level of oppressed. Mm-hmm. Whereas Molly doesn't seem to have that same kind of oppression. She's very loud and brash, and you know, she'll get herself involved in conversation, and that instantly we're introduced to her like that. And I thought that was a very clever way of establishing super quick what this woman was about. And then, you know, she does the nod to Ruth, and as Ruth walks by, she says that she's new money. And new money. And so we, again, from, not that we're very well versed in class stuff nowadays, but we can understand that even though Molly is in first class, she potentially isn't deemed as upper class as someone who may be from old money, like Rose and her mom, or Cal, or, you know, any of the other rich people who are on the ship. Like, what do you think? What do you think about when we're first introduced to Molly? How does, like, her introduction make you feel?
Well, I instantly warmed to her because that's the type of character, like, it's obviously much more like my kind of level, you know, because I'm not a kind of first class passenger. I'd probably be in second class, you know, pretty like that kind of thing. So I feel more of a kinship with Molly.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also kind of see the difference between her, not just in her character, but also in what she looks like. And like you said, you use the word brash, and I've written the same thing down here. It's like this brashness and this kind of not being aware of societal norms.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder whether, because obviously we know that she in real life was a larger woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I obviously don't think that that's been done kind of to characterize her, but it does help characterization. Because I think that it's almost like the other women view her as grotesque, and I think that her size to them potentially feeds into that, and it sort of creates more of a divide between her and the kind of waspy old money women.
This is it. You know, she stands out. She stands out against the other first class women because she is in a bigger body. She also seems to have a bigger voice, a bigger personality. I wonder if you knew. No, like, why is Molly traveling on her own? Like, does she have a husband here?
So she was on board the Titanic because she'd heard that her youngest grandchild was ill. So like I said, she was in Paris and living in Paris for a few months, and her youngest grandchild was in New York. So she immediately boarded Titanic to get back to him. But she got a really interesting story. And I've made some notes because I wanted to go into this a bit.
I appreciate that.
Hang on, let me just figure my notes out. Bear with me.
That's okay.
No, I was like, why does that start there? It's because I had it start on this way. She was born into a very working class family in Missouri. She married. She was born into a very working class family in Missouri, and she married someone called J.J. Brown. He wasn't rich, and she decided that I think she had envisaged herself with a rich husband who could kind of like help her,
of course,
go further in life. But she fell in love, and she decided that ultimately that was what she prioritized. But then she ended up getting both, essentially, because his mining career took off, and he was awarded a seat on his company's board. And essentially overnight became like, I mean, I don't know, I'm not very good at like when it comes to money, like I find it really hard to like visualize, but he was very very rich for the time. So Molly, and Molly just seems like an all-round like 10 out of 10 woman. Like everything I can find about her, I'm like, wow, you just really wanted to do good in the world. So when that happened, she would work in the soup kitchens to provide support to miners' families, completely of her own volition. She didn't need to do that. And as they kind of like rose within society, she began to enjoy the arts and like the finer things in life, and she loved like social life, which I think you can see in the film. Like she just loves it, and she loves the kind of like the theatre of it all.
Yes.
But at the same time, she spent a lot of her time working with groups dedicated to women's education and helping children in poverty. And she also lobbied for the right for women to have the vote.
Wow.
So she did all sorts of things. She was very, I can't say the word. You're going to help.
Philanthropic.
That's the word that I can't say. Yeah, and she just really seemed like she cared, and I love that about her. But she actually
awesome.
Yeah, but she actually separated from JJ in 1909, so 3 years before the Titanic, essentially because they drifted apart. Like she loved the social life, and she just wanted to be like out experiencing things and doing stuff and whatever, and he just wasn't like that. So they grew apart, but she always said wonderful things about him right up until her death. And when they parted, she basically got like an allowance from him, which was equal to $24,000 per month in today's money. So she was sorted.
Oh, Molly's all right.
And so she's kind of spent her money doing more charity work and stuff, and socializing. But then so it was at this point when she boarded Titanic because of her grandchild being unwell. And I mean, I've got a lot more to say about her. I don't know if we want to go into like more about the actual character, or
yeah, let's go back into Kathy Bates's character or portrayal of her, because you said something there about how she comes from a working class background and she's now in this high upper class society, and you definitely get that vibe off her because she's almost like she's super accessible to the audience, isn't she? We can tell straight away that she isn't like the other upper class people we've seen who look down their nose at everyone. She's a lot more inquisitive and curious,
yeah,
while also still being this outsider.
she's relatable, isn't she?
She's so relatable.
We all know a Molly Brown. We all know one.
Yeah.
No,
Sure, love. And so then when we actually get to know her character a bit better, it's when they are having lunch with the owner of Titanic.
So Bruce Ismay, who was the
yes,
head
Ismay.
of White Star Line, so he was the head of the liner.
He's the head of he's the head of the company.
Yeah.
And so and we see there she is the one asking all the questions. She's asking like, who thought of the name Titanic, and was it you, Bruce? And then she also clocks Cal and also Rose's mum's behavior on Rose, and I love that Molly's the one who notices this, right?
Totally.
So Cal, you quoted it right. We'll both have the lamb. Cal just like takes control, and what does Molly say in kind of rebuttal to that?
You're gonna cut her meat too. What did she say?
That's it.
Is that it?
I think you're right. But yeah, it's like this really, like, she does it with a smile. She does it as she's just joking around, but her intent is very serious. Like, why are you talking down to your very young fiance? Okay, and then there's the whole smoking thing where like Rose wants to light a cigarette and Cal puts it out for her because Ruth is annoyed. Also, I just want to say, I know smoking's bad. I know smoking is bad. But this film makes smoking look good.
Amazing.
It does.
Oh, I used to pretend to have one of those little...
the long...
She looks so good. So good when she smokes.
She looked, I mean, genuinely, like, this, we mentioned it earlier, the film won best costume design, best makeup, all that kind of stuff at the Oscars, and for good reason, because in every shot, Rose and everyone else looks fucking phenomenal.
Literally.
I just love it. I love it so much.
She is just, I watched that film and I'm like, I don't know if there's anyone more beautiful. She's just like the most classic beauty in that film, which is why all of the stuff that she went through off the back of it, like,
I know, we'll get to it.
Me,
it's barbaric,
but yeah. But Molly Brown at that table, like, what I really love about him is that she doesn't accept things as they are. Like, I think because maybe perhaps because she has kind of, like, I don't know, she's kind of gone up in the world and she knows that things don't stay the same. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
She's like more open to change, whereas like she's gone into a world where a lot of people are very stagnant and very like tradition and things are done the way they're done. And she's kind of come into it and she's like, well, no, I'm going to do things my way. And I love that.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, she is this strong, independent woman. She's obviously got her own money. She's got her own means. And if you compare that to the DeWitt-Picators, Rose and Ruth, they have no money. Yeah, they have. We find out halfway. Yeah, they've got loads of debt. They've just got a good name, and so they have no freedom. And Molly has. She's just been having some good times in Paris. She's first class on the Titanic. She's schmoozing with the same people they're schmoozing with, and yet she has freedom and they don't. And yet Rose's mum looks down on her. And you go, well, how much of that is jealousy, eh?
Yeah, well, people don't
Mm.
down on others the way that she does. Ruth is a
Happy
very,
people
very
don't kill their
nasty lady.
husbands. Yeah.
Pardon?
Unhappy people don't kill their husbands.
Well, exactly.
That's a Victor Garber crossover with Legally Blonde that I've just connected in my head.
Absolutely love that. Oh my God, Mr. Andrews.
I love Victor Garber so much as an actor. I respect him so much, and I have my own critiques of him in this film, but I think he's still great. I just think his accent's shit. But in Legally Blonde, like, I think he is genuinely one of the most insidious characters committed to cinema.
I struggled watching him in that because of Mr. Andrews being such a, like, I really like
nice
the character.
person.
Yeah. No. And to see him in that, I was like, oh, God, no, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, yeah, he's hate him. Such a snake. But yeah, no, again, coming back to this dinner scene though, you have this kind of Kate, sorry, what am I saying? Rose, she mentions the whole Freud joke. Oh, have you heard of Freud? I think you'd really find his work interesting. And Molly and Mr. Andrews know instantly what she's referring to, and they kind of have a bit of a chuckle to themselves. And Ismay has no clue, and I love it so much. And then she storms off.
She's
and we love to see it. Rose is smart. Molly Brown's super smart. Like, and this is the thing. I think Molly can really probably maybe see a lot of herself in Rose. Rose wants to be an independent spirit. She wants to see the world while not being under the thumb of a man. And Molly is doing that.
She also wants to marry for love, not money. And obviously,
it's a very good point.
By the sounds of it, that's, I was going to say maybe that hasn't been considered, but if it's James Cameron, he probably has considered it. Like, that's what she did. She obviously, I think she sees Rose like not happy, and she knows there's another option. Whereas actually in that society, there's often not, or you make to think that there isn't anyway.
No, totally. The next kind of like prominent scene with Molly would be when the upper class women, including Ruth, are having afternoon tea, and then one of the women says, "Quick, that ghastly Molly Brown's on her way," and then Ruth says, "Oh, let's just get up and maybe she won't notice us," and obviously they do. And like, you've just missed afternoon tea. We're actually going to go get some fresh air. And Molly, she's not, like we've established, she's not a smart person. She knows exactly what's happened here. She knows exactly that they're just getting up to leave, that she's not too late, and so she doesn't let them get away with it. And she goes, "I'll join you. I need to catch up on my gossip." And I love that line, Alice. I love that line. I need to catch up on my gossip because gossip is important.
Yeah, I mean, she just is more and more of a queen every scene she's in, basically, isn't she?
She really is. She was, but I hate how they refer to her as ghastly.
Yeah,
it's just such a dehumanizing word to call someone.
Well, it's like I said, I think I used the word. Obviously, I don't think she's grotesque, but I used the word grotesque because I know that that's how women like that view women like her.
Yeah.
Ghastly is another kind of, and I think that encapsulates her brashness as well. And they obviously feel threatened by this woman who is not tied down by anyone or anything. She does whatever she wants. And that is completely unacceptable.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I feel like Rose's mum could do with a night out with Molly Brown. Do you know what I mean? I think, well, she could do with loosening up slightly and tightening the corset. Yeah, they would 100%. A night in New York would have done them, I think, all right. Yeah, well, because then this leads us to like when Molly meets Jack, and Jack, for saving Rose, has been invited to have dinner with first class, and so he's infatuated with Rose at this point, and it's just when Molly Brown's like, Son, do you have the slightest idea of what you're getting yourself into? Not really. We're going into the snake pit. What are you planning on wearing? You same size.
size, just about. So again, coming back to this idea of like, she is accessible, she is so relatable, she wants to help Jack, she wants to protect Jack, a bit of a motherly kind of relationship with Jack. And it's so nice to see someone be nice to Jack, because up until that point, obviously, like, Cal's been an asshole. God, I've just completely blanked on people's names. Why? I've seen this film so many times. How am I blanking on people's names? Lovejoy. Sorry?
There's a lot of characters.
There is a lot of characters. But yeah, like, Cal's been horrible. Lovejoy's been horrible. I think the guy who says, women and machinery shouldn't mix is a bit nicer, and he's the one who kind of says, like, maybe a bit of something, a little something for the boy. But again, it's not, a 20. It's what he was going to give Jack originally. Rose is displeased. What to do? But this is like the first person who we've really seen, like, take a real shine to Jack and want to protect him, and the fact that it's Molly, and you could argue that she's so motherly, and her like larger body conveys that kind of more maternal and motherly personality that we're so used to seeing. But then at the same time, this was a real person, so they haven't made her bigger for the film. She was a bigger person in that time. It does work.
I imagine that the reason why she has become such an icon is that her character makes sense, and also it's real. Like, everything that they've put in the film about her, like, as far as I'm aware anyway, so much of it is real. They haven't changed much at all. And I think that's, it just shows that she was just a real special woman.
She was. You're absolutely right. She really just come across as like such a lovely, good-hearted person. And then I think like another like kind of key moment for me with Molly is when they're on the lifeboats and she is with Ruth, and she tries to like rally everyone up to go and say, like, she says, like, those are your men out there, like, why don't you want to, like, fight to save them? And she gets shut down by the sailor, and you said it earlier, like, shut that hole in your face. But again, like, she does back down because she knows she's outnumbered, and also like everything is so precarious in that point of the film. But again, it just shows like she is a leader, which again, women weren't leaders back then. She's a leader. She's someone who stands up to authority. She's someone who wants to encourage and motivate. And these are all traits that women weren't, publicized to have back in this time.
No, and it's all real, that all actually happened. She tried to get them to go back, but the crew member on that lifeboat, he was scared that either they were going to get sucked down like with the ship, or that they were going to get swarmed by people in the water. But she tried to get him to go back, and when he wouldn't, she threatened to throw him overboard.
Wow! Oh, they don't show that.
Yeah. So
oh my God,
this is just another kind of bit of proof of how kind of much she just seems to put other people before herself. Like, she was like,
yes,
she didn't care about that. She was like, no, we have to go back. Those are your men out there. Like, we have to do whatever we can. And after so she survived, as we know. And after they'd been rescued by the Carpathia, she actually organised a group of other first-class passengers to help the second and third-class passengers who might not have resources, or they might like need things from them, and they kind of rallied round to help them. And they even offered like kind of counselling of sorts, like they would talk to them, and like she just was a really great woman, honestly. And I just think that, like, to know that people like that have existed, I don't know, people like that existed back then is like a really nice, I don't know, faith. It just restores your faith in humanity, doesn't it?
Yeah, because one of the things I was quite confused by up until this point was why Jimmy C included Molly Brown in this dramatization. Because okay, there are obviously some real people he can't avoid that, like the captain, like Ismay, Guggenheim or whatever his name is, the guy who's JP Morgan guy. These are real people who are on the Titanic. He couldn't, but they're also like the Guggenheimer guy. Is that his name? Guggenheim?
Benjamin Guggenheim.
Yeah, Benjamin Guggenheim. Heimer. And these are an Astor. Astor, what's his last name?
John Jacob Astor.
Yes. Hey, Astor. But even that like just shows her personality. So clever. They're real people who went down with the ship, but they also like they're not like key cast members. So it's like, oh, why did James Cameron put such a spotlight on Molly Brown and have Kathy Bates, who, you know, she is an Oscar-winning actress by this point in her career. She is a well-known name. People really, really like her. Why did he? And now I understand why, Alice, because she has such a story within Titanic.
Yeah.
And in some ways, like, I mean, not that I would ever change Titanic ever, but like it would have been really cool to have watched a film which actually centered on her and her journey in Titanic, you know?
I mean, when I was kind of doing my research on her, I found like there's loads of stuff about her all through it. So her two houses that she lived in, they're both now museums. Would love to go.
Sure.
One's in Missouri, the other's in Denver in Colorado. And also her summer house, I believe, is also kind of, you can go and visit that.
Love.
Then there was, like I said, there was this musical that was then
yes.
her life, that was then turned into a feature film all about her life. There's a boat at Disneyland Paris named after her.
Shut up.
A big river boat. Yeah, I took a picture of it when I went like earlier this year, because the poster says like the unsinkable Molly Brown, and that's the name of the boat. And I don't know
that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's because she was in Paris before she got on the Titanic.
Maybe, sure. Yeah.
She's just like, this is not the only time she has been kind of celebrated. She was a remarkable woman, and I think James Cameron choosing her as this like anchor for the story.
Yes.
So much sense. It makes so much sense.
It really does.
I wouldn't be surprised if one day we do get like another version of her story, because it does seem to be one that keeps being retold.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, I've definitely like learned so much that I didn't know. Like I say, I knew she existed. I knew she was a real person, but I had no idea to the extent of her influence. And I think it's really important as well. And this is something that I feel as fat people we get faced with all the time, which is that fat people have always existed. Mm-hmm. There's this rhetoric, right, Alice, that they like to go, it's a modern problem, and we've got modern problem, these modern solutions, and well, they didn't have size 22s back in the day, because we know that from like, vintage stuff, and it's like we hear that all the time, and it's just not true. Like, fat people have existed at all times of humanity, because we have all got different bodies, and all of our bodies work different. And I think it's fantastic to know that this person who was large for her time had such a successful, and it sounds like a very rewarding and charitable life.
Yeah, definitely. I think she is it's a surprising character to see in a film from that time, especially when we look at the kind of fat phobia that surrounded Kate Winslet, and I'm just like, that speaks volumes about what the attitude was at that time towards fat women, or women in general, because Kate Winslet famously not fat.
Mm-hmm.
But like that, then. But I guess Kathy Bates is not, she's not meant to be she's not sexualized in the film. So
no, she's a mum.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Whereas because Kate Winslet, for some people, is only there because that they see her as kind of the sex appeal of the film. I obviously did. I saw her as the sex appeal of the film, so I can't talk famously. But so it didn't matter about Kathy Bates, but Kate Winslet got a whole lot of fat phobia for a very slim person, which is very confusing.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Kate Winslet. So it's one of those core memories for me, Alice. Like, I hate to say it because I was so young, but I remember, people saying that Kate Winslet was fat in this film.
Do you? Because I
Yeah.
don't. I
No, I
that
remember
media
it.
completely, and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah.
Because I think that like I've said, like I thought that she was like an ethereal beauty, like a goddess, and
No,
I think
and
I
you're
would.
correct. You are
Yeah.
correct.
And
Yes.
I think that if I'd consumed that media as a child, I think I would have. I was fat when I was a child, at this age. So I think I would have heard that and been like, well, if she's fat, then what the hell am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would have been. I mean, I was probably getting that from other sources anyway, but I didn't need it from Titanic.
No, absolutely not. Like, I'm so happy, like, you don't have that association, because as much as I love this film, I am reminded of it every time I watch it. And it's disgusting. So, she was called Weighty Katie in the press, which is absolutely this. Kate Winslet was 19 with this film. 19. She plays a 17-year-old in the film. She is a baby. A baby. So there was an article that I found from the Rolling Stone in 1998, and it's called "The Unsinkable Kate Winslet" by David Lipsky. Okay, I'm gonna just actually make you mad, and I apologize in advance because I was fuming when I read this.
Myself, go on.
No, you prep. Yeah. So at 16, Winslet had a turning point. On the set of a TV drama called Anglo-Saxon Attitudes, Winslet, at 5 feet 6 inches, weighed 185 pounds. She had a small part as the daughter of a very heavy-set woman. One afternoon, the director strolled past the two actors, sized them up and observed, "God, the likeness is extraordinary." The comment shocked Winslet. Quote, "I looked at this woman, who weighed nearly 300 pounds, and I just thought, shit, this has got to change, this has got to go." A year later, a trim Winslet had her part in Heavenly Creatures. To be a veteran actress at 22 is also to be a veteran interview subject, and Winslet has mastered the trick by which even life's painful moments become riffs. Winslet explains her old nickname, which was Blubber, and one later from David Cameron. That was such a Freudian slip. And one later from James Cameron, Kate weighs a lot. She quotes, "I was chubby as a child," she says. "When I was 16, I was fat. It was a family thing. We're all big eaters. My uncle's a chef. My mother is a fantastic cook. Kind of unavoidable. I sensibly lost weight doing Weight Watchers. End of story."
Oh God, Weight Watchers mentioned. What a nightmare.
What a nightmare. So this is like, obviously this article is written just after Titanic comes out, and she talks, but clearly this woman has had body image issues throughout her childhood, and I can understand why. Like, this is not victim blaming by any means. This is the environment she'd been brought up in. And, you have these phrases like the camera adds 10 pounds. And, if she's being told that she is the same as someone who is, a larger fat person, at that age, that's going to do some shit to you, because of course we always are told that being fat is one of the worst things you can do to your body. It is so vilified. And then bring it back to specifically Titanic. So this is from an article in Vanity Fair from 2017, written by Joanna Robinson. Though both Winslet and Cameron now consider their Titanic feuds water under the bridge, or under the door, hint, hint, wink, wink. Winslet, thanks. I did not write that. That is that part of the article. No. Winslet still clearly carries some scars from that period in her life. At the time, Cameron had dubbed the actress Kate Weighs a Lot, and just earlier this year, Winslet gave an impassioned speech on body image and bullying, which concluded, quote, "I learned to embrace my flaws, to make no apology for who I am. I dug deep and I decided that I simply wouldn't listen when they said that my body didn't fit. This is who I am, the real me, Kate from Reading."
I love her.
And I just think that's 20 years between those two articles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful Kate has found a place where she's much more comfortable in her skin, and she's got the authority to speak up for herself. But Alice, I am so devastated she had to go through what she had to go through to begin
100%,
with.
100%. And I think it's worth mentioning that, like, she is now very slender, I would say. It's not, I think that so I was thinking about this. I was like, why did people think she was fat? And I think because she's like a little bit soft. Like, she's very, she's slim, because we see her naked in this film, and we can see that she's I mean, yeah, like I said, sexual awakening.
No,
absolutely stunning. But she's got hips, and she's got boobs, and she's got kind of like her face like is slightly rounded.
It's rounded, yeah.
And you can kind of see like something that I always picked up on and appreciated when I watched this film. Obviously, this is a horrible bit of the film, but when she's like fallen off the back and Jack is like holding her arms, you can see that there's like, you can see that she's got a bit of softness there. And I always thought that was absolutely beautiful. But I think those are the little things that people picked up on, and they were like, you can see the tiniest bit of an indent when someone touches your arm. You're fat, you're massive, you're disgusting, you're too big to be, the kind of the lead in a film like this, when you're supposed to be, the sex object, if you like. Like, I don't think that's really how she was meant to be in this film, but obviously that's how people see the leading lady, if you like. And yeah, and I'm like, that's why they gave her all of that shit. And James Cameron, I'm like, I'm sorry, you picked her because you thought that she was good, like perfect for the part, and you must have thought she was like, but like, I don't know, it seems very strange to me to sort of choose somebody and then treat them that way and make them feel bad about themselves when you've chosen her. So clearly you think she's right. I don't know. I find that really like uncomfortable and power play. From what I can tell, and I imagine most directors are probably like this at that level, or a lot of them anyway, but there's like, I've heard a lot of like power imbalance stuff when it comes to James Cameron that I do not like, and this appears to be one of those, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about the softness point, because it does really remind me of Nicola Coughlan in Bridgerton. She herself has said she is not a plus size actress, and yet we have deemed her plus size representation. And because, well, first of all, plus size representation is just so thin on the ground, we are having to take it where we get it.
We take it whatever we can get, right?
Wherever we can get it. But Nicola Coughlan, she is soft. She is softer. She's got a round face. She's also petite. She's also, a shorter person. So and again, it's this idea of like, oh my God, like, softness, plumpness. No. And then we have that with Kate Winslet. I think you're absolutely right. She isn't the thinnest person we've ever seen on screen. And just because, she's got like literally she has curves, and I love the phrase softness. It's such a delicate word, but the softness, and people have, if you think as well, we're in the 90s, we're in heroin chic era, we're in the Kate Moss era. She does have a different body type to what was being deemed the peak of the female physique back then, and therefore people are angry at it. And I think as well, in the same way, I can't help but relate the two for some reason, but Nicola Coughlan and Bridgerton, it's this anger that the creators, be it the creators of Bridgerton or the creators of Titanic, have gone, well, this person is a sex symbol and someone to be lusted after. And it just gets people's backs up when you position someone who might not have the thinnest of physiques as someone who should be lusted after. But at the same time, it's so hard to, because like obviously there are some body types which do have curves which are sexualized, but then at that point they're not sexualized from a place of, comparing again Bridgerton and Titanic, where this lustfulness comes from a place of like their upper class, their first class, almost like royalty, right? Regency era type vibes, compared to, say, like a Kim Kardashian, that would never be considered in the same lens of lustfulness, because that's like hypersexualized. While this body type is, or this kind of lens that we're looking at with Titanic and Bridgerton, is more old-fashioned and more classy. No offense to Kim Kardashian, I hope she understands what I'm trying to say. But it's just interesting, isn't it? How we've gone, you have to be super, super thin and delicate to be seen as worthy of a classy love, classy sexual attraction. But if you've got too much, like you're too booby, or you're too hippie, or you've got too much of a big bum, then that's like hypersexualized. And then fat people, like truly fat people who are like somewhere in the middle of all that, are not sexualized at all.
No. And if they are, then it's like it's met with a lot of opposition, right?
Yes.
People feel so uncomfortable. And I feel like someone like Kate Winslet at that time, I feel like it was more just that she's fat for Hollywood, right? Like she's
totally Hollywood fat, yes.
Yeah, she's that's what it was. And that is horrific to think about. You'd hope maybe might be getting better, although arguably it seems to be going downhill again, but we don't need to, I just don't want to talk about that. But like, yeah, it's like I said before, I feel like it really shines a light on like where our mentality was at that time, that we saw a slim woman with like, you know, an hourglass figure that is seen as like the ideal. I feel like she's very female gaze, and maybe that I was so deeply obsessed with her because she's like, whereas men are, that's not what they want, you know?
I guess not. But then at the same time, because this is before the internet, right? This outrage, which is very much in the printed press. I wondered if you spoke to a random man, what would they say? Like, how much of it was real? Like, how much of it was the public being like, she's too fat? And how much of it was the media manufacturing this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it's all the media, because I think that probably if you asked, like, the average man on the street what they actually find attractive, I would imagine that she would be up there, right? But it's the way that the media portrays, like, what men want, or do you know what I mean? It's how they keep us small.
Yes.
They have to make us feel like we are wrong, and therefore it kind of feeds into the kind of, you know, the patriarchy element of it all.
Yeah. I guess I think you're absolutely right in a sense of, you know, coming back to Weight Watchers, for example. You know, you go, I'm putting out a conspiracy theory, but say if I was Weight Watchers and I see the biggest film of the year with a starlet who is on the rise and who a lot of young women will aspire to, I might pay for an article to be written that says that she's too fat.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to give every woman a complex, because like you say, if Kate Winslet is fat, then what about your average woman? And then, you know, you're going to get a big uptick in people subscribing to Weight Watchers or Slimming World or Slim Fast or whatever else was, Atkins diet. I'm trying to think what was happening in the 90s. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen.
It's entirely a possibility, right? You know,
come on.
And then, because you don't know how much of her, I mean, we're really going down a rabbit hole with this conspiracy.
No, I love it.
But like, you know, her PR team might have been like, yeah, we'll get her to say that she did Weight Watchers in an interview. That's how she lost her weight. Yeah. And it sounds far, but it's, you know, these things happen all the time.
These things happen.
We're not necessarily true.
Coming back to the Kardashians. They say that they get their fucking figures from these stupid little gummies or these flat tummy teas, or these lipsticks just happen to make their lips look bigger. We all know it's bullshit. Are we saying this wasn't happening back in the 90s as well? Come on. Absolutely. Come on, let's open our eyes.
It's just in a different form, right? Like,
it's just, yes, absolutely. It's a different form. It's a different way we're consuming it as well. I hate it. I feel so sorry for like Kate Winslet. 'Cause, like, you know, I was a fat kid, fat teenager, fat adult, but in some ways, like, I wasn't growing up in the public eye. You know, she's been famous since she was like 15, 16 years old. And to be criticized and have your body torn apart like that, to the point where it becomes like a nickname for you, foul.
But also, can we just like take a second to remember the fact that she was 19 doing full frontal nudity?
Please.
You know what I mean? Like, imagine like how much it must take to put your body out there like that, and then have it scrutinized in the way that it was.
But to be fair, and again, like I'm talking as a 32-year-old woman now, if I had a body like that, I would have got my tits out too.
Absolutely.
That is very much a Nicola Coughlan quote, because she said that, like, I've just got cracking tits, I wanted to get them out. And I'm like, yeah, 100%, and as you should have, and I will applaud it every time. I mean, yeah.
And I hope
like,
that's how Kate felt. I hope that's
I
how.
hope so.
But then, you know, even if she did feel that way, like when doing it and had the confidence, then how would it then feel to have that reaction from the media, like afterwards? That's got to do something to your brain.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to have an incredibly thick skin and a great team around you. And again, we weren't thinking about this in this way in the 90s. Like, again, I apologize to listeners because I keep bringing it up, but like to watch Nicola Coughlan like kind of navigate it now, but she's 36 now. Yeah. And I think like, oh, well, again, coming back to what the articles I was quoting Kate on, you know, she obviously struggled back in the 90s, but now we're in like, you know, the 2010s and she's doing a lot better. But then at the same time, Alice, to your point, it's great that she's in a happy place with her body image, but she is also a slender person.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I wonder how she would feel if she was fat, you know, like, I think a really good challenge for people is if their acceptance or their happiness with their body image is weight dependent. Because
Absolutely.
Therefore you're actually not happy with your body image at all.
Totally. And a lot of the time it's impossible to know because you are the size you are. Like, you know, I often think to myself, because I'm always thinking about these things, because I'm aware that my weight fluctuates and I've been on a very big like anti-diet culture, body confidence type journey for a long time. And yes. I often sort of think like, how would I feel if I gained weight? And it's impossible to answer that question. I want to think that I've done enough work that I wouldn't mind at all, but putting that into practice is a totally different thing, and it's a hypothetical that you can't possibly know the answer to.
You're 100% correct. You are 100% correct, and I say it every time on this fucking podcast. So again, I apologize to the regular listeners who have heard me say it so many times, but this podcast really is a blessing and a curse. Because on one hand, I think it's really important that we call out fat representation and its positive and negative stereotypes that it can portray, and then how those stereotypes then feed into real life and how they can affect everyday people. Like we've just talked about Kate Winslet, how the media treated Kate Winslet when this film came out had a trickle down impact onto how it impacted real life people. I think it's really important. But on the other hand, Alice, I wish we didn't have to talk about it at all.
This podcast didn't exist.
I wish we didn't have to talk about it. I wish we could just be like, they have a body and that's it. I wish we could live in like a truly body neutral place. But until that is where we're at, I think we just have to constantly be, you know, honing in that media critical and analytic lens and question, what are we being fed about different body types, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. The media has a lot to answer for, as per usual.
As per usual. I mean, it's very influential. So the third person I'd love us to talk about, probably not got a lot to say because he's a very minor character, but it's Lewis Bodine, Mr. Bodine. And if you don't remember who Lewis Bodine is, listeners, he is Bill Paxton's Lovett's like right-hand man. And he's the guy who explains to like an older Rose what happened on the night Titanic sank, and it's like that computer animation, and he's so like unsympathetic to what's really happened.
Yeah,
Go on, please.
I wrote insensitive, very insensitive.
Insensitive, fantastic word, absolutely. And again, it's something I hadn't really clocked before because I just watched this film for fun. But I noticed that this, I was like, oh, he's actually a bigger guy. That guy's a bigger guy. Oh, let's just see how he's portrayed. And Alice, had you clocked him before, like thinking of him as a bigger person?
Think so, but mainly, I don't know whether I'd ever really thought about his size, but in general, he's a bit gross, isn't he? Like, he's a bit kind of like, I think he's portrayed as being, I felt like slightly incel vibes. Like,
ooh, okay.
He seems like a nice guy. I don't know him well enough to like to say whether he is or not, obviously. But like, it's the kind of like, it's the beard, it's the sort of belly, like hanging out a bit. He looks a little kind of slightly unwashed, maybe. But also like very kind of, I don't really know what he does exactly, but he seems to do some technical stuff. There's like a bit of an element of that. And also he is quite, as we said, he's quite brash and insensitive when describing the sinking. So that word brash again, it's kind of come up for another larger character. And obviously I'm not saying that the way that I was describing him as saying he's like a bit gross, etc., etc. I don't really feel that, obviously, but I think that's how he's sort of supposed to be portrayed to us.
Yeah.
And yeah, he lives in his mum's basement vibes to me.
Yeah, he just lives in the basement of a ship instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, he. I was quite surprised actually when I was properly watching him this time. I was like, oh, he's very crass. He's the one who swears a lot. She's a very old goddamn liar. He's very untrustworthy of Rose and whatever the granddaughter's called, Lily.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I think so.
Sure. Hold on, let me just.
I'm never sure about anything.
Lizzie. So close. Yeah, close enough. He says, he goes, "You're so full of shit, boss." He's the one who asks whether Rose and Jack did it. Like he's very creepy. Maybe is a phrase you could use. Maybe a little bit like there is a sense of like I said to you in my little structure that I send to all my guests before they join. I said, does he fulfill a stereotype or the stereotype of a larger fat man? And honestly, so. Alice, I think it's a massive tick.
Yeah.
I think he is your typical fat man in a film.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think him and Molly Brown, I think there are quite a few like, what's the word? Crossovers. Like I think that he also is very unaware of social norms. But well, I say that. I feel like Molly Brown, she's not unaware of social norms. She just doesn't care about them. But I don't think is aware that what he's doing. And, when he's kind of explaining the sinking of the ship in a really sort of like crass way to someone who literally lived through it. And we can all see that she's like finding it quite painful. And he's just completely... But yeah, he's not aware of that. He's kind of... So I don't know how to kind of describe that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. He just comes across as maybe a bit selfish, socially unaware, socially inept. Like when they think they have found the safe, Cal's safe in the Titanic, and they think the little necklace will be in it. He blows his load too early, so to speak, because he pops the champagne before they even know. And I thought, well, that's a very interesting point of view, like a very interesting decision.
Not with him, aren't we? We're supposed to kind of... Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, I just felt quite... It's one of those things where I feel like the Molly Brown character is so great, obviously, and she should be, and she's obviously a real character as well, so there's so much wealth that they could pull for her characterization. But with Mr. Bodine, granted, he probably has maybe 10 minutes of screen time in this 3-hour-long film, but I was grasping at straws. I was like, where are the fat people in this film? Because But there was one, and he had some lines, and I just thought his portrayal was very, very typical for me. He gave me a bit of Shrek vibes. He gave me a bit of like Homer Simpson vibes, like someone who's not very tactful, someone who's a bit clumsy, someone who's like, again, like to fulfill a stereotype, he's a bit of a computer geek. He like manages the little like submarine robot guy, and I was just like, yeah, we're hitting all the greatest hits of a fat man character here, and I thought it was lazy.
I'm surprised he doesn't have like a bag of Cheetos with him all the time.
Yeah, that would be like the icing on the cake. It really, really would be. Maybe there's a deleted scene somewhere. I feel like his characterization is so far in there. I feel like that's 100% a thing, like a reality for that character. I was disappointed, not surprised, because this is 1997. This is Hollywood. This is what they do. But I was disappointed. I was like, oh, just like so unoriginal, not even trying to challenge the stereotype.
Totally. And I feel like James Cameron will probably say, well, we didn't make any fat jokes, so it's fine. Sure. But it's not. Yeah. It's the way that they're characterized, and it's the stereotype, and yeah, not so great to look back on now, is it?
No, not at all. So then, to round off our little like fat conversation, a question I'm asking my guests now, because I think it really helps establish whether in the world that James Cameron, Jimmy C, has created for Titanic, do fat people exist in it? Mm-hmm. And because we know in our real world, fat people are part of everyday life. We see them every day, all day, on the street, in the shops, whatever. But when there are casting directors or people who are in charge of like extras in the background, there'll be, I'm sure, some unconscious bias being put out there. And so my challenge now is like, in the background, in like supporting characters, in characters we hear nothing from, do fat people populate this world? And Alice, did you see any of note that we wanted to mention?
I think I saw. So I've written down all the fat characters that I saw.
Fantastic, love that.
There's not many. And when you think about the number of extras there were on this film, like so many, and I saw one fat extra. There are a couple of other characters that I'll mention, but one fat extra, and he was at the Irish party in third class. He was
great,
which I thought. I expected to see a bit more body diversity in third class anyway. But there wasn't as much as I thought. I saw one man. It's a 3 hour, 15-minute long film. I might have missed someone, but he was the only one I could see. But I did write down the rest of them. So
please, yeah.
Lewis Bodine, obviously we see him first. Molly Brown. I wrote Kate Winslet. Then we've got the Master at Arms, who we've already discussed. Women in Machinery do not. But he's more like kind of like he's got a little bit of cuddle about him in terms of character. I mean, I wouldn't say he was like the nicest man on the ship, but he's nicer than the other sort of men in his position. And I think that his size is more sort of like to do with status. Like
I was going to say, fat
that's what
cat.
I'm going.
Yes, 100%. I was quite because I was looking at that from like the upper class men, because like they upper class men were bigger because they had access to all of the like, things that make you fat, like sugar, and so. Yeah, when I saw him, they're drinking a lot, they're smoking a lot. They probably have like incredibly like high fat meals. Like I mean, I don't know what the calorie intake of caviar is, but right. So yeah, like you would see that, and he for me that character really does fulfill that fat cat stereotype that we would expect to see. He's not given much characterization at all, but like you say, he's a relatively fine person.
Yeah, definitely. And then this is another one that I wasn't sure about. But what about Madame Bijou, the woman that Jack sketches? The lady who says that she sits in this bar every night waiting for her long lost love, and she's wearing all this jewelry, and she's got this big hat on and stuff. And she looked to me like she could have been a bit of a bigger lady.
Love how you have just name dropped Madame Bijou, because I 100% agree. She gives me fat woman energy. You know, she's dressed to the nines. So yeah, no, I think, you know, she's putting on everything she owns. She wants to look her best.
Mm-hmm.
And also the sense of, like, you know, unrequited love. That's a storyline we see a lot with fat characters. And so
and a little desperate and potentially a little bit delusional as well. Like he says that she's there every day and every night, and waits, and kind of there's something really sad about that. But also I liked that Jack saw beauty in her and he was inspired to draw her. Like I like that. But then I think we're just after that, Rose is like, oh, you really see people. So I think, you know, we're aware that she's perhaps not like the kind of person you'd expect him to want to draw.
Well, exactly that, because she'd already passed comment on the fact that, like, he was dressing this, like, sex worker he found in Paris, and, oh, you liked this. I think you had a love affair with this person. She's jealous because she's clearly beautiful. And then turns out that she's got an amputated leg, and apparently that clearly means that he can't possibly find her attractive. And I was like, okay, that's a bit ableist. All right, back down. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think Rose's comment is very much like, you don't go after just the pretty people, like, you want to see all people, therefore these people aren't pretty. Exactly. It's a bit of a backhanded compliment from our Rose.
You know, I like that she was included. I'm gonna throw a real curveball now.
I love it. Please.
What do you think about the ship herself? Because this is what Bruce May says, right? Bruce's May.
My God.
He says, I wanted to convey sheer size, and size means stability, luxury, and above all, strength. And I was like, yeah, it fucking does. Yeah, it does, Bruce. So I feel like the ship is a fat character, and I love her.
Absolutely. Of all the characters, I thought you could have said then, the ship could not have been further from my brain. That is an inspired answer. I fucking love it. Yes. 100%, and she's a she, so she's a fat woman, and they're proud of her. They're proud of her size.
Yeah, they say she's luxurious, she's strong, she's disabled. They trust her. They are proud of her, and yeah, I love the way I characterize.
She does let them.
There's a little listen, but that's not her fault. She didn't do anything wrong, you know. Let's not bring her into it. You didn't want that to happen.
She's made of iron, sir.
I assure you she can. Yeah, but I love the characterization of ships as women. I've always really loved that. And I love the Titanic, the ship, just as much as I love the film, just as much as I love everything. Like I really love the ship, and to me she is a fat woman.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally agree. I love it. I will always now think of that. I will always think of the Titanic as a fat woman.
Yeah.
Yay, I love that. I love that answer. It's such an inspired answer.
Want and need. I think that's the end of my list. Let me just check. Yeah, I think so. I was like, I'm keeping that one till the end.
No, I love it. No, it's a really good one to end on. I think the only other person I clocked was I don't know what his role is, but it's one of the crew who's down in, like, the engine room. And he's the one who has, like, the cup of tea, and he kind of throws it when they're like, hard to starboard.
Oh, right.
I don't know what his role is, but he's a bigger guy.
Yeah. I missed him.
And like I say, he has maybe 10 seconds of screen time. I just clocked him on this watch through, and I was like, oh, he's a bigger guy. But that is it. Like, in the background, there really isn't much body diversity going on, and which is annoying, and it's frustrating because, like, why aren't there, like you say, like, you know, if you were going to see them, you'd probably expect them to be potentially in the third class, just because there's just a more variety of people, full stop. But yeah, even in those scenes, even in the Irish dancing scenes, there's not much going on, and it's such a shame. It's such a missed opportunity to, like, just bring some realism into this world.
And Molly Brown is the only fat woman on the whole ship. The ship is a separate entity, but on the ship Molly Brown, apparently, according to this film, is the only fat woman, which I find completely preposterous.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I have one question which is not even related to fat representation at all. I just want to talk about it. What is your favourite Rose outfit?
I know. So the one that she wears during the sinking, that like pastel, dreamy,
The purple,
flowy, gorgeous dress.
and the matching coat,
and the matching coat. Oh my god, I've been obsessed with that outfit again since I was really young, and the number of times I've considered buying a replica or having one made. Or I actually dressed as me and Ruth, when we first got together, we dressed as Jack and Rose for Halloween, and I made a version. Of course, I made a version of that dress using like other clothes, and I loved it. I loved it so much. But I
love it.
That one, it has to be. I mean, they're all beautiful, but that outfit is very my vibe.
No, absolutely. It's such an iconic outfit. I think when people think of Rose, they think of 3 outfits, right? They think of that one, the sinking outfit. They think of her dinner to Irish jig outfit.
Yeah.
Especially with the tights or with the stockings. And then I think they think of, oh, no, I just blanked. The red, the kind of black and red that she's, when she's hanging off the end of the boat. I think those are the ones. But my favourites aren't any of them.
Oh, go on.
I have 2. I adore her embarkation outfit with the pinstripe dress coat with the big fuck off hat.
And that camera shot where you just see her turn and then I love that bit so much. It is so dramatic.
It's so dramatic. It's so fantastic, and I love it so much. And then I also love, I think, an undersung one, which is the lunch lamb scene where she's in that green kind of tea dress with the lace sleeves.
Absolutely beautiful.
I love it because it's so different. Yeah. Her hair.
Yeah. You know, I don't know what it is, but I've always loved it. That it's like a kind of hair necklace almost, you know, like the beads that are wrapped around. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
No, those 2. If I had some money, I'd love to have them recreated because I just think they are just so brilliant. Love the use of color, love the drama. I love. But I think every outfit is like a 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah,
they really do.
There's a reason why they won that Oscar.
There's a reason. Yeah, exactly. I think. Yeah, it's awesome. It's such an iconic wardrobe for a character.
And can we talk about, you know, the butterfly robe?
Of course, please.
I love the butterfly robe. Oh my god! Like, you know, when she's got the little tassel and she like twirls it around, and that and when she slips it down, just 6-year-old me could not cope.
No, I mean 32-year-old me can't cope.
No.
As a paying customer, I expect to get what I want.
Ugh, so sexy.
No, I love her. No, you're absolutely right. The robe is an absolute slam dunk. I love how it's sheer. It's so sexy. God. No, she really is. I mean, fuck the press, because she is flawless in this film.
She is. She's the perfect woman.
Damn them. So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about when it comes to Titanic?
I mean, I want to sit here and talk about Titanic all day. Can I tell you about my Titanic bathroom?
I think you need to. Yes.
Well, I mean, I have to have somewhere to put all of the Titanic things that I've collected over the years. So when we moved into this house, we decided to have make a Titanic themed bathroom. And yeah, I've got all sorts of artifacts in there. I collect things from all the different museums. We've got like drawing. I did this like drawing / painting of, you know, the butterfly hair clip that she has, the hair comb.
Yes.
Like a watercolor of that, and then made a Heart of the Ocean themed frame for it with like, it was like deep navy blue with diamantes around the outside. And yeah, it's just a bit of fun. So we're hopefully buying our house, and
yes, fingers crossed,
planning a bathroom renovation. And we're going to do like a Titanic bathroom, but it's going to be like proper. Like we're going to like select certain pieces. At the moment, it's just a bit of a mishmash. We've just put a load of Titanic shit in there and it's our Titanic bathroom. But I'm going to like design it and incorporate like the Titanic vibes into the whole design. And I can't bloody wait. I'm so excited.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be so cool.
I can't wait. I'm going like sort of color scheme is going to be like siren mermaid vibes, lots of greens and like iridescent tile. And then there's this, when I went to the Titanic hotel in Liverpool recently, they had this amazing they had this like amazing white star line poster that had this like, what are they called, on the front of a ship, the mermaidy, what are they called?
Yeah, what are they called? I don't know.
Remember. But it was like a beautiful piece of artwork that was like white star line, and then it had like one of those on it, and it was just stunning. And I was like, I need to source that, and then I'm going to use that as like the basis for it all. And I'm just very excited. I will be documenting it all on my various social media platforms when we get there, I imagine.
Well, just a little humble plug there on that. All of Alice's social medias will be in the show notes below to make it super easy for you to keep track of that. I have one final question because I don't know what your answer is going to be, but who is your favourite character in Titanic?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. I mean, my favourite character, like I love, like I feel like I want to say Rose because I adore her. But when it comes to like character, I'm enthralled by Rose. Like I can't take my eyes off her. But I think my favourite character it's got to be Molly. It couldn't be anyone else. Not for me.
Yeah.
Also Cal. Let's not forget Cal. He might not be a good person, but he is a fucking great character, and I love him. What about you?
Cal is my favourite.
Yeah. He's the perfect villain.
He's such a fantastic villain. Him going after them with the gun, that whole sequence is like so thrilling. And then his like super camp, I hope you enjoy your time together, is so funny. It's so funny. Like Billy Zane, I know his career didn't like take off in the same way that say like Leo's and Kate's did. I'm talking about them as if I know them, but like he really is like so fantastic in this film, and he just cracks me up. So many good one-liners. He's so skeezy and sleazy and hilarious. The fact they put eyeliner on that man is so funny to me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. No. I say that with the utmost respect and complimentary intentions, but it just really adds to like you say, his like camp villain era. And like I don't get me wrong, I love everyone to a certain degree, but yeah, I think for just like super fun character, I think it's Cal. But yeah, I think it's such a, like you say, such a wealth. There's so many people that
totally,
just people that we have like little one-liners from.
Yeah, but I think the way that this film works so well is that even the characters that we just have a few lines from, it's so well written that we understand their character from just so few words, and that's the sign of some very good screenwriting.
Absolutely. Right. Let's wrap this episode up. So, Alice, you may remember from last. No, I know. Literally, we could just do like what the Bechdel cast does and like just meet every year and talk about it.
Oh, I'd love that.
And have like a little anniversary episode. Talk about something else. No, so, Alice, you'll remember from the last time you were here that we like to rate our films on how well we believe that they represent fat bodies and like larger bodies in general. And we like to rate them out of ourselves. So out of 5 potential Alices, what would you give Titanic for fat representation?
I know this is wrong, but I can't give this film anything other than a 5 of anything. And I'm going to back myself up. Okay. It's a perfect film.
It could be the worst film for representation ever. You don't care. It has to be 5.
It's having a 5 from me. Like, just be glad that I didn't give it more, okay? I'm backing myself up on this because we've got Molly Brown. She's a wonderful character. I really love her. I love her story. I love her
She really is.
characterization. Yeah. Like, I love that she's such a focus. And we've established the ship is also a fat character, and
it's a really good argument.
100%. And it is that line from Bruce Ismay. I wanted to convey. I wanted to convey sheer size, and size means stability, luxury, and above all strength. I'm like, why? I feel like I'm going to start like applying that to myself. So this film gives me. It's taught me a lot about myself. I feel very well represented, and I'm giving it a 5. No notes.
Okay, it's a 5 Alice. 5 Alices. I think that. Oh God, I could be so wrong when I say this. It could be the first. No, we've definitely had a 5 before.
I mean, it's not
a 5 with. It
doesn't
matter.
5. It's a 5, but it's not a real thought out 5. It's just a 5 because I can't.
No. Okay. Don't you discredit your 5. You've given it 5 Alices, and that is worth something.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna go in the middle, and I'm gonna give it 2.5 Hannahs.
Yeah.
And I think the Molly Brown characterization is phenomenal. I think Kathy Bates plays her fantastically well. We wouldn't expect anything less from Kathy Bates. She's great personality. We know exactly what she's about. And even though her weight is used to portray this separation between her and the other like upper class people, she's not vilified for it, which is a very important distinguishing thing. In fact, Ruth is vilified for it. Like, we as an audience are meant to think badly on Ruth for judging Kathy. So we're on Kathy. We're meant to be annoyed at Ruth for judging Molly. We're on Molly's side. And I think that's a really important distinguished thing. I don't know what the right word was there. So, love that. 2.5 stars. 2.5 Hannahs goes straight to Molly Brown's pocket. She's phenomenal.
I'm like, what if Molly in real life wasn't fat? Then we'd have none. You know? It's only because she was fat in real life, you know?
Yeah, they didn't give the role to Kathy Bates because they're like, oh, Kathy Bates would be really good in this role. They gave the role to Kathy Bates because Kathy Bates is one of the biggest, larger actresses of that time. And she's also fantastic. I want to make that. She's also amazing.
But you have to question like how much of that is like not coincidence, but like it just all sort of fitted into place and matched the real life character.
It's an informed decision.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, all the puzzle pieces worked for this character. And that's not to discredit at all. Not at all. It's just the reality of the situation. But what I would say actually is I adore the idea that the Titanic is a fat woman. I think that's phenomenal. I'm going to take that away. I want everyone to take that away now. And whenever you watch Titanic, remember that is a fat lady trying her best.
100%.
Right. If that pesky iceberg wasn't in the way,
she could also be a fat woman.
She'd be famous. She'd be a famous fat lady. She is already a famous fat lady. Yeah, no, I love that. That's been a massive revelation for me on this episode. I've really enjoyed that. That's great. Alice, thank you so much for coming on the podcast once more and talking about your feelings for Titanic, your opinions on Titanic, and just sharing your love and obsession with us. I feel very honored that I got to like indulge in it with you for the past like 2 hours. And I know the listeners will have enjoyed it too, because it's always fantastic when you get to hear someone talk about something so passionately, and you talk with passion about Titanic, and it's just such a joy to listen to.
I know, and also I'm really sweaty now.
Are you excited?
Get really excited. I'm really warm. I'm animated. I've honestly had the best time. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Whoop whoop.
It's just so much fun to talk about, and I appreciate that you are so like on the same level about it as me, and we can just have such good conversations about it. So that makes me very happy.
I try. Well, we just support each other. Women have got to have hobbies. God forbid a woman has hobbies.
And Titanic is a perfectly legitimate hobby, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, my hobby is watching Titanic. Your hobby is just consuming anything about Titanic, full stop.
Yeah. Consuming, collecting, thinking about. Yeah. It occupies a lot of my brain. I can't lie. I'm fine with it, though.
If you're fine with it, then we're fine with it. That's the only thing that matters. Alice, you need to let me and listeners know where they can find more of you and your work.
Yeah, of course. I am primarily on TikTok and Instagram. So my handle is at a spoonful of Alice, or you can just search my name, which is Alice Mary Tate.
That's super, super easy. And like I said earlier, the link to all of Alice's social medias will be in the show notes below to make it super, super easy for you. So the listeners can find the podcast at Fats on Film on Instagram and Twitter, and they can find me at Queen Bee Says, and that's where I talk about like plus size fashion and just living as a fat person. Oh, I've also started a Substack. That's a new thing. So you can find that again at Queen Bee Says on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Also, if you just want to drop me an email, I'm always looking for more things that we should be looking through the fat lens over here on Fats on Film, so you can email me at fatsonfilm@outlook.com. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and I will catch you at the next one. And remember to stay fat. Bye!